All I remember is feeling us slam into something. I was ejected out the back left window. When I was 24, I was working for a news station in Minot, North Dakota. And on this specific weekend, I had someone that I was best friends with at the time visiting. At brunch, we kind of discussed what we can do that day, and skiing was something that we had come up with. Once we had all of our stuff together, the four of us got in the car and headed to Botno Winter Park. Now, there are two things to remember during this. One, obviously it snows a lot in North Dakota, and two, we were on a desolate road for majority of the ride. The day actually turned scary just as quickly as the decision of going skiing was made. I remember my friend that was driving saying, "I hit black ice, I can't stop the car." And I remember her friend who was sitting up front with her saying, "Whatever you do, don't overcorrect the car." So instead of overcorrecting, she let the car go whichever way it was going to go. And in that moment, I knew that I had to do something, which all I can do was grab the back of the headrest and hold on as tight as I could so that if something happened, I had something to hold on to. In the moment, it also felt like it was forever until the car decided whatever it was going to do.
It's impossible to imagine the terror that must have been felt in this moment, with the instinct to just hold on for dear life and hope for the best.
Once the car was done swerving all the way to the left, I remember basically hitting something, whether it was a wall or a snowbank. After we hit whatever we slammed into, the car rolled over. I was ejected outside of the back left window. And to this day, if we're being honest, I'm still not sure how I fit. I don't remember going out of the window, but I do remember everything else, including being outside on the snow, laying flat on my back. Two others outside of the car already able to walk around, and the driver who was stuck inside because the door wouldn't open. At a certain point, everyone asked me if I can get up, and I started saying, "No, I can't move." It was then that it hit me that something was terribly wrong, and in the back of my head, I knew that I was paralyzed. Even though I had really known nothing about being paralyzed, it just clicks.
Once the adrenaline of surviving being flung out of a car crash settles, the devastating reality of Hellraiser's situation begins to settle in.
So back to the part about being on a desolate road. That's the negative here. There was no one to really rush to our aid. I wasn't even freaking out yet, and I was not even in pain, probably because I was in shock. So I just laid there kind of waiting for help to come after they had already called 911. Eventually, a truck driver comes by, and he actually got out and gave me a blanket and covered me to keep me as warm as I could be until an ambulance arrived. Once the ambulance did arrive, that was actually the scariest part for me because they started doing all the tests on me, and they started poking me and asking me what I can feel and if things hurt. And all of my answers were aligning with nothing good. When I finally got to the ER, I remember thinking how scary the room looked. It seemed like all metal, and it was just full of people waiting for me to be there. There was actually one familiar face that seemed like it would calm me down, and it was the ER doctor. And the reason I knew who that was is because I had sat next to him on a plane a few months prior.
If this situation wasn't surreal enough, Hellraiser knew her ER doctor. But how?
I had been flying back from Toronto with a connecting flight in Minneapolis. I took the last flight out from Minneapolis to get back to North Dakota, which is where I was working. But after we took off, we started talking. Turns out this man was a trauma doctor who worked, I believe, out of Detroit, but also out of Minot, which is where I was living, because there was a shortage of doctors at the time in North Dakota. So him and I, when we were talking, discussed potentially doing a news story together, being that I was a reporter and anchor and he was a doctor that was flying in from a different state. We thought it would be a good talking point. He gave me his number, we exchanged information, and ultimately that story never happened. The next time I saw this man is where my last story left off. Ultimately, he would be the one to wheel me into my CT scan. Now, I'm not expecting him to give me any special privileges or be super nice, but it would have been nice if he dropped the news a little sweeter than "you're never going to walk again." And just like that, he basically left the room. I ended up going to Minneapolis to have back surgery and pretty much put me back together.
Despite hearing the devastating news that she will never walk again, Hellraiser was determined to defy the diagnosis and began rehabilitation. There was an unusual silver lining to the car accident they were in.
After giving everyone in the accident CT scans, they found something in the driver's brain. What they found is called an AVM, and basically, from what I understand, it's the potential to have a brain aneurysm. More or less, it's a ticking time bomb. So a few months after the accident, she ended up having brain surgery to save her from what could have been a potential brain aneurysm that was there well before the accident and she would have had no idea about.
We can't quite believe that Rosa survived this horrific accident, being flung from out of the car. Wow. The moment she realizes she is paralyzed is heartbreaking, but her ability to push herself, being spurred on by the doctor's words that she will never walk again, is an incredible feat. We wish Rosa all the best on her road to recovery. The comments section was so supportive of Rosa's story and blown away by the unusual synchronicity, saying, "You are so strong," and "Oh my goodness, I have chills over the ER doctor thing." As always, thank you for watching Happiest. If you liked this video, then be sure to follow our other social pages for more heartwarming stories like this. And of course, if you have any of your own videos that you'd like to share with us, be sure to send them in.